Hello, everyone. I just want to welcome you back to my YouTube channel. And today I hope we are going to provide you with some more valuable information. It's sort of a general overview. And I don't know if you've ever had to deal with the loss of a loved one, but it can be incredibly difficult. And navigating the legal steps after, it can feel sort of incredibly overwhelming. And so today I just really wanted to discuss the probate in North Carolina. It's a process that seems complex, but we'll break it down to make it as simple and general as possible. So, what exactly is does that word probate mean? Simply put, it's just a legal process for managing a deceased person's estate. This involves paying their debts, or it could be distributing their assets. And just really just sort of ensuring that their wishes are carried out the way they desired for them to be. Now, if you think about it like this, just imagine it's your family member. They had a house, they had a car, and maybe a savings account and a checking account, and then they had all the personal belongings in their house. And probate is just the process that makes sure that all of those assets, properly handled and they're transferred to the right people. So let's sort of walk through typical steps involved in North Carolina probate. After someone is deceased, the first thing is, if they had a will, uh, it needs to be filed with the clerk of superior courts at the county in which the people lived, or the person lived. And if there is no will, a petition for administration is filed instead of the will. The next thing is that the court will appoint someone to manage the estate. If there's a will, then the person is probably going to be named in the will, and that person will be called the executor. If there is no will, then the court will appoint a role that's called the administrator. Now, the executor or the administrator, they must then notify all the heirs and publish a notice in the local newspapers to the creditors. And what that does, that gives the creditors really a chance to make any kind of claims against the estate that they may have. Now, the next thing is you're going to have to do a detailed inventory of all of the estate's assets. It's got to be created, and this includes things like their real estate, their bank accounts, their investments, all the personal property, and all those assets. They need to be appraised to determine their values. Now, that appraisal it can be formal, like the house, but there's things in the house that you don't know what value, but you just put a number to it that's your best guess. The estate is responsible for paying all of the outstanding debts, including the funeral expenses and the taxes owed by the deceased, if there are any. Now, once all the debts and the taxes are settled, uh, the remaining assets are distributed to the heirs or the beneficiaries. This is done according to the instructions in the will, or according to there are state laws if there's no will on how that distribution will take place. Now, finally, the executor or the administrator files a final accounting with the court. And once that accounting is approved, the estate is officially closed. Now, it's important really to understand that probate is generally required whether or not that person had a will. The will simply guides how the estate is going to be distributed. Um, so, question we might have is, what happens if one of the names named as the executor in the will? What happens if no one is named as the executor in the will, or if the person named can't serve? So then the court appoints an administrator, and this is often a family member, or there is a role within the court system for families that maybe don't have a member that can fulfill the role. So, what's the difference between an executor and administrator? Well, an executor is named in the will by the deceased. An administrator is appointed by the court when there's no will or no executor available. But both have similar responsibilities, and that is to managing the estate, paying the debts, and distributing the assets. Now, here's a question: can you sell the deceased home before probate is complete. Now, in general, the answer is no. Uh, the executor or the administrator really needs the court is going to need the court's approval to sell the real estate. Sometimes there are debts, outstanding debts, that the only way that the remaining heirs are able to pay the debts is from the proceeds of the home. And the court in those situations can be petitioned, and you can request the authority to go ahead and sell the property. And very often they'll approve that so they can get the debtors paid. Now, what happens, as we know, is not uncommon, unfortunately. What happens if members disagree about selling the house or about any of the personal possessions? And that can really get to be a complex situation. The executor or the administrator, they must really try to find a fair solution. And sometimes the court will need to make the final decision for them. Another question is, does the executor have like absolute power in the last word? No, they don't. They must follow the law and act in the best interest of the estate and all the beneficiaries. And another question might be, how long does it take in North Carolina for this probate process from start to finish? And typically, it's going to take between 6 months to a year. If it's a complex estate with a lot of assets, it can go longer. So probate can really be a challenging process. Um, if you're facing it, consider consulting an experienced North Carolina probate attorney. They can really provide guidance and really help to navigate you through the process. Um, we're here at North Carolina Foreclosure Solutions NC.com. That's our website, but we run into probate issues all the time, so we're pretty versed on the processes and the way that you maneuver around that, especially in the foreclosure process. But in any case, if you have a home that's in foreclosure, I mean, is in the probate process, it could also be in the foreclosure process. We're here to help you. So our website is www.foreclosuresolutionsnc.com, and you could go there, click on contact us, fill out the brief form, and we'll be in touch with you, and we will help you at no charge, just in any way that we possibly can. We're here to help you and to be a resource for you. So thank you for joining us today, and I hope you have a great day.